Hey guys, welcome in. We'll get started here in just a minute. Yeah, yeah, you made it early. That's fun. Okay. Here we go. Now we've got some people starting to stream in. It's good to see you guys. I'm going to be putting out the information for how to come into the studio for a reading in a minute, so just hang tight. Yeah. All right. Got some people joining live now. Awesome. So today I'm going to, as I've been doing lately, I'm going to do some live readings, and I'm also going to take Q&A. So both are totally open today, and I've been doing this as a way of saying thank you to all of you for your generous support in the Kickstarter, and also to rally the last remaining backers that we need to meet our goal before New Year's Eve, which is just 3 days away. So we are coming down to the wire, but we're getting really close, really close. So anyway, I'll say more about that in a minute too. Truth Heart says, wow, hello, it's nice to catch you live. I'm an aspiring astrologer. Absolutely love your work. That's awesome. I love hearing that people are studying astrology and thinking of doing it professionally. Obviously super passionate about astrology education for sure. So thanks for being here. All right. Where are you guys coming in from? If you are just arriving into the chat, I'd love to hear where you're coming from. As always, it's really interesting to see like what part of the world people are coming from, what cities and countries and everything like that. Let's see. Rhiannon from Loveland, Colorado. it is the final countdown. That's right. That's right. We're almost there though. I mean, it's impressive. We have, as of the time I'm recording, it's just 573 backers left to go with 3 days. Like, oof, that's tight. We'll see what we can do. I think we can do it. I think we're gonna do it. We'll see. Amy says hi from a year 1 student. Hi, Amy. Thanks for being here. Hello from Montreal, Canada, the interdimensional artist. Thank you. Thank you for being here. From Charleston, South Carolina, from South Florida. Altair from New Orleans, from Vancouver Island, Santiago, Chile. You've been here a few times lately, Tom. Thanks for showing up. And from the Netherlands, gosh, from Australia, and Vivian's tuning in from LA. Goodness. What? Cadillac, Michigan? That's wild. You know, I lived there for a while. I worked at the Ruby Tuesdays when I was in graduate school in Cadillac, and lived out in McBain. So I'm sure you probably know where that is. When I was going to Central Michigan University back in my early 20s, got into a lot of trouble back then. It was a mischievous time of my life. Croatia, Ontario, from Mexico, nice. Kim from Houston. Where can we find the Kickstarter? Well, I'm glad you asked. You can find the Kickstarter on my website, which is nightlightastrology.com. When you go over to the website, you'll see the link to the Kickstarter, and I'm also going to put it into the live chat, the chat stream, so that you can get over there. But yeah, the link is on the website. If you go over to the website, you'll find it right away. Here we go. There's the, oops, that's not it. Here we are. I don't know what I just pasted in there. Aha, there we go. There's the link to the Kickstarter. Aha, from Whitney from Minneapolis. I love, you've been here. You've been kind of regular lately. It's nice to have some Minneapolis folk. I love that. Let's see here. The readings are not for sale. I'm not selling readings today. I'm just picking some people from the audience to do some readings for. So, so let's see here. Um, oh, Salisbury. Nice. From Australia. Yeah, I love that there's like an Australian faction in the audience. I notice it every single time, and I'm always like, "That's so cool." I've got, like, a kind of a dream to visit Australia at some point, so you guys maybe you guys have, like, an astrology conference, you can tell the organizers to invite me because I'd love to see Australia. My wife actually studied there for a year when in her study abroad program, so that's pretty cool. Oh, yeah, there's Brisbane. Okay, there we go. All right, well, since we're at 100 people, I'm gonna do the countdown, and then we'll start. All right. Well, officially welcome in everyone. This is Adam Ellenboss from Nightlight Astrology, and I'm doing a live stream today as a way of promoting the annual Kickstarter campaign, which has just 3 days left in it. So we're trying to rally some last minute support to try to cross the finish line. And I'll be telling you more about the Kickstarter in a minute. The other piece today that we'll be doing is birth chart readings. So if you would like to join me in the studio here live for a reading, I'm going to tell you about how to join me here in a second. The email address that you're going to want to use is grabbed at nightlightastrology.com, which is the email address we use for our storytelling episodes. When people have stories, they'll use that link to share. Actually, I'm going to put a banner up. That might be easier. Hold on. Let me just see here. Here we go. This ought to work. So email us right like that, grabbed at nightlightastrology.com. In the email, include your name and your time, date, and location of birth. Once I have that information, I will send a link back to a certain amount of people. I can't get to everyone, but I'll send some people back a link to join me in the studio. Make sure you have your camera on. Make sure you turn off the volume on YouTube when you pop in. Otherwise, you'll get that crazy echo. So make sure you turn the volume off on your speakers when you join in the studio, when I call you on anyhow. I'll do, I'm going to be on for about an hour today. So we'll see what we can get done in that time. And I'd also be open to taking questions. So if you have questions about astrology, any kind of question that's not specific to your birth chart, like I'm not going to be like, hey, what does my Venus in the 12th house mean? But if you can place it generally, like a theoretical question about planets, signs, houses, aspects, anything you want to know about astrology itself, feel free to post it in the comments section and I will answer some questions today. And I'll also be glad if you have questions you want to ask me about myself as an astrologer, kind of where I sit in the world of astrology, or anything else you want to know about me as a content creator, as a person. I'm glad to answer questions like that today too. And so on that note, before we get into that, use the email address, grabbed at nightlightastrology.com. If you want to join me live in the studio for a reading, I'll be picking some random people. You come into the studio, I'll do a brief mini reading of the biggest transit of your year ahead. And then what I'll be doing is taking some breaks here and there in between people and trying to answer some of your questions. So before we get into any of that, and I can see some emails already coming in, so that's great. I want to tell you a little bit about the Kickstarter campaign. We are in the final, there are 3 days left to go in the annual Kickstarter campaign, and we still need the support of 573 backers to get to our goal. Our goal is to reach 1,777 backers, and as of the time that I'm recording this, we have 1,204, which means we need 573 in the last couple of days. So if you have already contributed, as I've been saying all along, from my staff, from myself, my family, this is how we earn our living. This content that we produce year round, we put it out there for free, make it accessible, no paywalls or like subscriptions or anything like that. And then we ask that if people appreciate it, they just pitch in. Whatever you can do is totally acceptable too. Some people can donate $5. That's awesome. Thank you. Some people can't donate anything. Well, light a candle for us. Pray that we meet our goal. We accept good energy, but also we still need 573 backers from the audience. We can rally that support in the last couple of days. So if you haven't yet donated, please consider pitching in and supporting us. Today, what I want to do is I want to tell you about, because I've been getting a lot of emails asking me to explain the different programs because all of our certification courses are on sale through the Kickstarter. So when you go over to the website, and I'm going to put the banner for the website up so you can get over there if you would like to. Here we go. So it's nightlightastrology.com. When you go over to Nightlight, you're going to look at the courses page. When you're pledging through the Kickstarter, you can pick any of our programs and you get $900 off the normal course fee, which is also, that's 50%, or you get, I think it's $400 or $500. Let's see, 13. So it's $400 off the early bird sale that runs before classes start. So it is our best deal of the year. And if you want to study astrology, become a professional astrologer, get certified through our programs, or even if you want to just take the programs for your own spiritual development, those courses are on sale. When you bundle 2 or 3 or 4 of the programs, the savings goes up significantly. We have 6 different courses that we offer. You can see them under the courses tab, and you can read more about them if you're considering maybe donating and picking up a huge discount on one of our programs. The first year course is called Ancient Astrology for the Modern Mystic, and it is a year-long immersion into ancient Hellenistic or ancient Greek astrology, which shares a lot in common with ancient Indian astrology or Jyotish. So they're very similar in that respect. Ancient astrology is a bit like karmic analytics. You're learning how to read in a much more predictive manner than most people who have been exposed to modern astrology are used to. It's a great, great skill to develop. And the programs are also really, at the end of the day, a kind of union between modern psychological and archetypal astrology, counseling astrology, and ancient astrology, which is much more predictive in nature. When you put the two together, you have something really special. And so our programs are called Ancient Astrology for the Modern Mystic for that reason. Going backward into ancient history, in the ancient history of astrology and learning the underlying philosophy is really important, because when you study astrology, you might know something about the topics of the houses, but you don't know what a house is or where it ever came from in the first place. What differentiates it philosophically, technically, from a sign? Where did the signs first come from? Why did people come up with signs and houses? What was the idea behind those things? How specifically did the topics of the houses come about? Most people in modern astrology are taught, for example, that the topics of the first house have something to do with Aries, the topics of the 7th house, something to do with Libra, the topics of the 9th, Sagittarius. And that's actually not true. And there's many other tremendously important philosophical concepts that you learn when you study ancient astrology that take you much deeper into the roots of our theory, and that help correct a lot of bad mistakes and misunderstandings that modern astrologers often teach. And the reason that they teach that is not because they're just like ignorant. It's because we only within the past 30 years had available to us, we now have available to us, the vast majority of the ancient astrological texts from the earliest era of horoscopic astrology in the English language. So most modern astrologers, in other words, were working with without a full deck of cards. And that's nobody's fault. It's not like to say modern astrology is crappy. No, it's modern astrology didn't have access to the history of astrology in an adequate way. Now we do. And so because of that, there's this huge opportunity for students of astrology to go back in time and learn about where everything comes from, philosophically, theoretically, technically, and then to take that and marry it with some of the most profound and beautiful things that modern astrology has had to offer, specifically the psychological astrology of the modern era and archetypal astrology, which are very, very closely related. There's some fine distinctions between the two, but we use astrology mostly now to speak to the soul of an individual. Like, where are you at in life, and how can we help you move through the seasons of life from a standpoint of self-reflection and psychological growth and personal and spiritual evolution. Well, ancient astrologers were interested in the same thing, but it just so happens that the craft elements that they had at their disposal were much, much more powerful on the level of being able to predict precisely when certain kinds of events were likely to take place. And so when you study ancient astrology, it's just really profound, because not only do you understand everything that you're using at a much deeper level, you understand the planet signs, houses, aspects, dignities. You understand all of those things in a way that is truly mind-blowing. But then in addition to that, you have this a greatly enhanced predictive ability. And then at the same time, if you marry that with care for the soul of the client in front of you and the nuances of a psychological approach, which is what modern astrology has given us, then you have a really powerful set of tools to work with. So the first year program is about developing natal work from the Hellenistic perspective. We drop out all modern elements for just 1 year, so that you can just kind of go back in time and see the world through the classical view of astrology, see charts through that view. And it's profound to do so. People like Demetra George, Chris Brennan, Robert Schmidt, Robert Hand, so many great sort of ambassadors of ancient astrology more recently took time when they first started studying it to set aside modern conventions to just kind of put themselves into the traditional paradigm. And then in year 2, when we start studying predictive methods. So the first year is just all about learning to read natal charts from the ancient perspective. In year 2, we start working with forecasting methods. And at that point, then we bring in the outer planets and we include modern forecasting techniques alongside of ancient forecasting techniques. And we start deliberately working things together. Year 3 is about counseling in astrology. So the third year program is about developing counseling skills, and also it's about the craft and structuring of a reading alongside of counseling skills. How do you sensitively combine high level predictive astrology alongside of careful care of the soul and counseling? That's the subject of our year 3 program. These programs are incredibly well structured. They have a ton of support built into them on all levels, inside and outside of class, in terms of reading, bonus material, quizzes, workbooks, flashcards. I mean, as much as you could want. And for some people, that's spectacular because you want to go professional and read for other people and earn something of a living, or even go full time eventually. For other people, they may not use all of the extra content that's there because maybe their intention is a little bit more, it's just like personal. It's like your personal hobby, or you're a part of developing your spiritual life. The other thing that happens when you take astrological programs is your life transforms in a very profound way spiritually. Studying astrology is, I mean, it's not so different from, I remember when I first studied in a yoga teacher training program in New York City, and I didn't go on to become a yoga teacher so much. I owned a yoga studio with my wife, but I was really doing astrology through, I've always just been doing astrology for the most part. But studying yoga profoundly shifted my spiritual life and, really deepened everything. It was a tremendous catharsis to go through a yoga teacher training program. So many people take the program for that reason. The programs we offer are cathartic. Now, the last program that we offer in terms of a 1-year certification track program is our horary astrology course. Horary is the most specifically concrete, predictive form of astrology, you could say, that ancient astrologers used. And it involves casting a chart for the moment of a specific predictive question. For example, will I get the job? Will we get married? Is she pregnant? Even will my team win the Super Bowl, or something like that? Horary is the most specific, outcome-oriented, predictive form of astrology. And it is an incredible tool to develop. And most of our students take the course actually a few times through, because the questions we deal with, the charts we deal with are fresh. It's kind of a course you can take many times. And on that level, people retake it because you constantly are like refining and getting better at prediction, which carries over into natal work. That's the incredible thing about horary. Even if you don't practice horary professionally, studying horary tremendously sharpens your skills as a predictive natal astrologer. So anyway, those are the 4 major classes we offer. And then we have our masterclass series and the Roots and Spheres program. Roots and Spheres is a monthly moon circle that meets, and we diet plants, and we have spiritual rituals we do in community. We reflect and share together in a community. It's basically like an experiential plant and planet community that meets under new and full moons. That's available through the Kickstarter as well. The Masterclass series meets once quarterly for 8 to 10 hours worth of content, advanced, in-depth, detailed content on one focused topic. You can look at the Masterclass series and see the different Masterclass topics that are being taught. You can pick up any of last year's modules or the entirety of last year's program, or you can pick up a discount on this year's Masterclass series. Those are all advanced topics in Hellenistic astrology. So at any rate, and you can learn more about when those classes start. When you pick up a class pass through the Kickstarter, it never expires. So you can use it whenever you want. If you get 3 classes or 4 classes, you could take those sequentially 1 year at a time if you wanted to. Many people take multiple classes at once from us. If you want help figuring out what the best approach is for you and where you're at in your life, we can help you with that. We help people all the time with selecting which programs to take at which times. So anyway, any questions you have about the programs, email us info@nightlightastrology.com. Thank you guys I got a lot of emails asking for me to clarify what the programs were about for people who are sitting on the fence wondering or not if they should join a program with class pass through the Kickstarter. So on that note, today I am going to dive into questions that you have, and we're going to do some birth chart readings. Let's just see if anyone has any questions after all of that. So. I will say your program does inspire me to go back to school for counseling, where I would then love to take your courses with a renewed perspective. It's already so transformative. A lot of people who take our programs are counselors who are seeking to marry therapeutic training with astrological training, but you don't necessarily need that. The year 3 program in particular is all about becoming a competent counseling astrologer. We have a lot of emphasis on the kind of counseling that astrologers ought to do, and trying to prepare you for that as well. So let's see here. I'm scrolling down. Shelly says, I've taken 5 of Adam's classes. They're all great. Thank you so much for that. Yeah, we really appreciate that. So again, I will tell you the Kickstarter link is on the website, nightlightastrology.com. And I really appreciate your support. Let's see if we can't get the last 573 backers by New Year's Eve. Okay. Let's see. Some of your questions. Oops. Nope. Can people become better tarot readers with these courses? Well, we don't focus specifically on tarot, but anytime that you learn anytime you become fluent in one archetypal language, it is going to tremendously benefit your ability to read, talk about, and juxtapose archetypes in other languages. And I can tell you that that's true because, from both myself being a hobby student of tarot and a hobby student of the I Ching, there's so many crossovers. So I think learning another archetypal language always benefits the other languages that you already know or are also studying. Yeah. Why do we sometimes feel transits through sun signs rather than the rising sign? That's a great question. Well, first of all, I would say that, once you get a really deep understanding of natal astrology, you're gonna notice that much of what you think is running through a sun sign horoscope is probably due to something that's more specifically located in your birth chart. So, like sun sign horoscopes, unless you are, if let's say you resonate with the sun sign in Aries, a sun sign horoscope in Aries. Unless you're an Aries sun in the first house, a sun sign horoscope will never align with the actual house placements of your birth chart. So for that reason, I don't think that they are super reliable. And I think there's divinatory value in them. Like they can speak because astrology is divination, and in astrological symbolism can speak in a lot of different ways, and not always, like in horary, we don't use your birth chart at all. It can speak to your situation very specifically. So it's not like everything only comes through your birth chart, and so I'd say there's relevance in a lot of different symbolic approaches in astrology, and sun sign astrology is a symbolic approach. So there's you can resonate with that for sure. But I'd say in time when you learn natal astrology in depth and you learn about the specific placements of your natal chart, the dignities, the aspects, the sect of the chart, all sorts of stuff that really refine your understanding, you probably will not resonate with sun sign horoscopes any longer. In fact, you won't really resonate with horoscopes very much at all. So and that's just, I think that's the truth. Okay. Let's see here. That's a good question. Is there life after a hard Pluto transit? What does it look like? Yeah, I mean, isn't it? It is. Yeah, it is. It's a kind of death, and but I mean, what I've seen frequently is that the destruction that Pluto leaves, like afterward, there's this very fertile period where new things that really couldn't have existed without that loss or that kind of devastating period of everything being dismantled. You can't get to the rebirth without the death. It's really that simple. But you have to give it time because Pluto's slow, and sometimes the big, huge dismantling events that you might have a year where there's a bunch of them. But give it a few years. Be really patient because the growth of the rebirth phase of whatever is going to grow in place of what has been lost takes a while sometimes. So you have to be really patient and also just really trusting that Pluto's not out there to just like mess with you. All right. Lady Rainstar says, astrology commonly helps me with my tarot knowledge because it overlaps so much. I agree. It certainly does with mine too. Whitney asks, what is your Jupiter placement? So I was born with Jupiter in Libra, conjoined with Saturn in Libra, 1981 baby. So yeah, let's see. What is your view on Vedic astrology? It's a beautiful form of astrology. That's my view. It is. It's a fantastic system of astrology. There's not one right or wrong system of astrology. There's not one right or wrong zodiac. There's not one right or wrong house system. We're not, if you treat the birth chart like you're trying to get to some kind of purely objective mechanistic truth, we've totally missed the point of what astrology is, which is oracular, and it's meant to speak to the soul. And there's different ways of painting a portrait. You could have a caricature like you do at the fair, or you could have like a classical looking painting, and then there's all sorts of styles and ways of portraying what a life is and different lenses that are used to do so. And that's the different forms of astrology. That's the simplest analogy I know of anyway. Let's see here. Okay. What is the role of each prediction technique and what order should we look at them? Well, that's a huge question. I mean, to be quite honest, for me to answer that question, it takes the entirety of my year 2 program. It literally takes, like a whole year of study. That's a super big question, and it deserves a really detailed answer. But the one thing I would say is that there's not any one particular order that predictive techniques need to be used. It's more about the purpose behind using them. And it's also about the art and the artfulness of the practitioner. Techniques and tools in astrology are not so different from the tools that a musician or an artist might have in their pack. So learning what techniques are good for what reasons is important. Like zodiacal releasing is good for some really specific things. Annual perfections are really good. Directing through the bounds, like there's all these different techniques that are great, but they're great for certain things, and then they're also it really it's about your relationship with them as a practitioner and how that relationship guides you to use them in certain key moments, and that's kind of intuitive and artful as well. So I'll say that. Uh, okay, I'll see if there's a few more questions, then we'll get into some readings. Why are Cancers the most dangerous zodiac sign? Um, that's news to me. I'll tell you, I don't think that's true. There is no most dangerous zodiac sign. Think about it like this. What have some of the world's most dangerous people, what have their charts looked like? They're all different. There's no, yeah, we really want to avoid like stereotypes in astrology. So cancers aren't dangerous, and whatever, Scorpios aren't dangerous. People might say like, oh, a Scorpio, they're such an intense sign. It's like, no, have you hung around some Scorpios? They're wonderful people, and not like intense once in a while is a useful description, but often it's completely inappropriate. This is because we have quite frankly, we have some really shitty ways of having been taught astrology. And this is why I say, like, going back to the roots of ancient astrology is really important, because you start to learn about what a sign is. There is no such thing as cancers, right? In ancient astrology, no one was walking around being like, I'm a Leo, I'm a Cancer. No one, it would be like someone walking around today being like, I'm I'm a Six of Pentacles or something in the tarot. It's like nobody gets identified with tarot cards, and nobody used to get identified with astrological signs, planets, houses, aspects, moon phases. And I'm not saying this to be a jerk. It's just the truth. It's like, there are people, there are souls, and we speak of some of the patterns a soul will experience in terms of signs, planets, and houses. A soul is not a Cancer or a Leo. A soul is, as Heraclitus said, a soul is a mystery explored forever to a depth beyond report. The language of the zodiac is symbolic language that's meant to describe archetypal patterns that a soul will experience, not that a soul is, right? Big distinction. Anyway, so cancers aren't dangerous. And there is no most dangerous sign. So I hope that helps. Get me on a soapbox. Don't mean to sound like a jerk. Okay. Oh. Do you use whole sign or Placidus? I use whole sign houses because that was the house system that ancient astrologers use. It is the oldest and likely the original house system. But certainly it is the widespread, it's the pervasive house system in both ancient Western and Indian astrology. And I just think it's more eloquent and easier on the eyes and easier to read, and more coherent. And so I like it for that reason. I don't like intercepted houses and house cusps. And the other reason I don't like, for natal astrology anyhow, I don't like quadrant based houses. It's just chaotic, So that's just my opinion, though. I don't think that there's a right or wrong house system. Don't get me wrong. I'm just telling you why I prefer whole sign houses. I find whole sign houses tremendously more reliable. And that's, at the end of the day, though, it's like, I'm not going to die on a hill over that. I have lots of friends, other practitioners, that use Placidus. And I started off with Placidus. It's not like it doesn't work. Can we use crystals to alleviate the energy of a planet if we're feeling really grabbed by a planet? Yeah, of course. Yeah, totally. And there's some really great books that have been written about what types of crystals to use for remediation, or aligning yourself with the planets in certain ways. Yeah, that's for sure. I mean, that's one of the big things we do in our Roots and Spheres program, right? Is we work with plants that have specific planetary signatures according to ancient herbalists and astrologers, and we use them as a way of working with the astrological alignments of the month, and trying to embody the connection and the wisdom of those placements. So that's what our moon circle is all about. And there's a couple of women in the moon circle who often will recommend various crystals and stuff too. Do you see Jupiter as the spouse in a woman's chart? No. Nope. The spouse will show up in many, many, many different ways. In every chart, it is almost always a mistake to assign like one planet to one person. You'll see, for example, the father can be represented by a lot of different planets, depending on like the fourth house ruler, planets in the fourth house, the sun or Saturn. A woman, a spouse could be represented by the moon, Venus, seventh house ruler, a planet in the seventh house. So many different options. Most of the time, it's a huge mistake to put one planet with one person, or one topic or one theme with one planet, because no planet has the market corner on anything. For example, when people are like, "Oh, the moon is emotions," no, it's not. Such a tremendous misconception, right? When you study ancient astrology, you realize why. Because you learn about all of the different ways in which planets could equally embody similar things. That's not something that's taught nowadays. We try to cut it up nicely. Oh, the moon is emotions and Mercury is your reason, and it's like no, there's so many very specific placements for planets that can make them indicators of the way in which you express, or it could like your emotional intelligence can be expressed through literally any planet in the chart. And oftentimes it's about looking for things rather than assuming things to start with. It's about saying, if I want to understand something about this person's emotional makeup or character, how they tend to process or express emotions or something like that, I don't start with the assumption that there's only one thing that will represent that. That's not a smart way to understand how archetypes work in astrology. So, okay. Yeah, let's see here. Okay. How would you interpret a nodal return? That's a good question. And then after this question, I'll go to we'll do some readings. Okay, so how would you interpret a nodal return? Well, when the nodes of the moon return, it is, it's like approximately every 18 to like 19 years, right in there. And it usually means that let's just call it the themes, the life themes indicated by the house, sign, and placement of the north and south node are they're getting tremendously amplified. And it's as though a full cycle of karmic development relative to those themes and houses has completed itself, and another will begin. That's the gist of it. It's really that simple. If they're in the first and seventh house, identity and relationships. And in every pair of houses, of course, is like a dyad that has some topics that are related to one another. It's really important and helpful to understand how and why those topics were ever assigned to the places, the houses in the first place. So, but yeah, it assumes that there's a kind of um, a story that's being told, and it's a hard moment of resetting that story, starting fresh with the same themes, but hopefully with deeper understanding and wisdom that's kind of come along. And you really have to interpret it by, where's the north node, where's the south node, what signs are they in, what houses are they in. So it requires a little bit more. You need more specifics, obviously, but you're going to think of it as like, really, nodal returns are the eclipses of the nodal returns. When the eclipses are happening in those signs, those are going to be really significant for most people, really significant biographical markers, that really significant changes in your life story happen around those times relative to the themes and topics of the houses and signs. I guess I'll answer maybe one or two more. What do you think about Vedic being often fatalistic? What do you think about their view about remedies and repetition of mantras and shadow planets? I think sometimes it's founded in fear. Maybe. I mean, just to play devil's advocate, you could also say that it's founded in respect for the reality of the gods, respect for the reality of karma, and respect for the reality of forces bigger than ourselves. Whereas in, let's say New Age modern pop astrology, there's a kind of narcissistic emphasis on, your unlimited self potential. that's that's rooted in arrogance and in vanity, right? So that could be a counterpoint. I'm not saying which one you should believe, or I'm not saying even that that's what I believe. It's just you have to, in my humble opinion, you have to place yourself in a paradigm and try to understand it from the inside of that paradigm rather than judging it from the outside of that paradigm and trying to figure out whether it's true or false. I think it's better to, rather than wondering if a paradigm is true or false, it's better to go inside of it and sort of try to put yourself in it and experience it. And then it goes beyond being true or false. It comes into your understanding. You go, well, I don't know if it's true or false, but I understand it. I understand something of it. Vedic astrology is coming from thousands of years worth of religious tradition. And that's not, from our standpoint, it might be like, well, yeah, that whole landscape, because it's more predictive, and there's more of a sense of like karmic consequence behind things, and there's maybe more fear or trepidation about like what's going to happen, and so there's remediations and mantras, and so if you put yourself in that paradigm and you kind of understand where it's coming from, I think you can just appreciate it. You can just say, yeah. And then you can decide whether or not it's a paradigm you want to inhabit as an astrologer. Having gone to India a couple of times, and I taught at a conference in Calcutta that was an East meets West astrology conference. And I got to know a lot of Indian astrologers. And I think there's also a way in which that Vedic astrology is like more faded, and there's something that might be a bit of a stereotype. So yeah, I question that, because I met a lot of practitioners who I think were very optimistic, joyful, and not heavy-handed or punitive, in their views. So yeah, it's like just keep an open mind about it. But it's true that there's different tone and a different mood in ancient Western astrology versus Indian astrology. And I think there's pluses and minuses to both. So I try to stay really respectful, because, spiritual astrological traditions on this planet are very sacred. And I think there's the first quality is, rather than saying like it's rooted in fear or something like that, is to say, maybe there's elements of it that make me feel afraid, or maybe there's elements of it that feel a little heavy to me or something like that. But it's also, the spiritual traditions of India and the way that Jyotish has been married to all of the yogic traditions is, it's deeply sacred. It's I think it's worthy of our respect. That's all I'm trying to say. So even if you decide like it's not for you. Is there any reason you didn't speak about Chiron? Yeah, so I just don't use asteroids. But Chiron happens to be conjoined my ascendant, so I probably should use Chiron. But yeah, no, I just don't I don't get into the asteroids so much. Let's see. All right. Going down, I think we're about ready to get into some readings here. These are great questions. So many good questions. All right, so I'm going to switch over to doing some readings now, and let's see. Let's update our Kickstarter countdown. Where are we at? Okay, we are at oops, here we go. We're at 1,207 backers, which means we need 570 left to go. $570 left to go. Here's the link to the Kickstarter. If you haven't pitched in already, would love your support. And I'm posting it in the comments section. All right. So I'm going to pull up the email now and take a look at who has All righty. Here we go. So I'm going to send you guys the link, and once you get that link, you can just join me in the studio here, those of you who emailed in. And let's see. All right, I'm sending them right now, so just... da-da-da-da. All right, you guys be checking your email because I'm sending out links as I'm sitting here. Do. Let's see. Hilda's dreaming. you can see her legs. She's like trying to run through the forest in the background. So the email address is grabbed@nightlightastrology.com. And we'll get to a few people here shortly once we have some people joining. And here we go. Okay, cool. Amber, can you hear me?
Hi. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm going to put your birth chart up on the screen. Can you tell me the date of birth?
September 6th, 1983 at 8:08 in the morning.
And what city and state?
Rock Hill, South Carolina. It'll probably ask you if it was York, and it was.
Okay, yeah, you knew it. I've got you as Virgo rising. Does that sound right?
Yeah, you got me as a big old Virgo. You should.
All right, let me put up on the screen, and I'm going to share. I'm going to share screen here, and we'll put your chart up. All right, can you see it?
I can.
All right, great. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to be taking a look at the kind of the most significant transit of the year ahead. All right, so let's take a... Wow, okay. Yeah, you've got a few that are sort of competing. You know, one thing that stands out to me is you have a... Whoops, here, there's two transits that I think are worth mentioning. One is Uranus is squaring your natal Venus in Leo. Venus is retrograde in your 12th house. And the other transit is Pluto squaring your natal Saturn, which can also be that's a pretty heavy one, you know. Yeah, I'd say, like, if you look at the transit to Venus in the 12th, let me ask, first of all, are you in a relationship at all?
I'm married.
Okay. And yeah, I mean, you know, Uranus to Venus is often going to spark some kind of significant transformation around love and relationships. You know, that could be, for some people, if you're happily married and everything's good, that's going to mean, maybe it's an exciting and creative period. I mean, I'm a Venus and Leo, just went through the square from Uranus, and I'd say it was pretty overall very positive for me and my wife Ashley. So it doesn't have to be a bad thing at all. But with Venus retrograde in the 12th house, it's also about exploring and kind of unpacking certain hidden dimensions of love and relationships. So you learn things that you didn't know about yourself or about other people that you love. There's things that are surprising or that sort of live in the unconscious space of the 12th. And the point of Uranus, sort of awakening Venus is to become aware of things in yourself or the way you love or how you love or what you love that become, better integrated, more consciously accessible to you. I always like the thing about Venus or Uranus and Venus is that it really gives us permission to love what we love exactly how we love it in exactly the way that is most authentic to who we are. So there could be some really powerful awakenings around love and relationships throughout 2024. The other thing it's connected to, of course, is the ninth house, which is a place of spirituality, religion, school, education, learning. So, maybe there's some connection to things like femininity, the goddess, religion, spirituality that are also a part of this awakening, or kind of the cross between art, spirituality, sex, relationships, all those kinds of topics that Venus rules. And Uranus being the, sort of a prolific awakener. So those are the things that I would see being activated. Sometimes there's also, with Venus ruling your second house, there could be some emphasis on Venus being awakened for the purpose of, money, income, or business. So anything related to Venus and money, that sometimes you'll see that kind of connection when Venus rules the second house as well. Those are the first things that come to my mind. Amber, do any of those really stick out to you or resonate?
So are those like scenarios, do you say for good or ill, just major transformation, essentially?
Yeah. I mean, unless you want to bare your soul and tell us all about exactly what's going on in your marriage, it would be hard to say,
I mean, we're probably what you would call a high conflict couple, but we are also very much in love with each other. We do
Mhm.
definitely have our struggles, but
Yeah.
you know, I've also
Well,
dealt with chronic illness that has, taken, those vows when you say for better or worse and in sickness and in health, you don't really think of all the things that can happen.
mm,
And so my own health has been a big part of, just conflict, but we always get through it. And at the end of the day, it's always just, we are like a unit. So it makes it a little hard to really forecast that. We just, like the alcoholics say, one day at a time, right?
that's right. It is really it's a good mantra to have. But yeah, I mean, the creative awakening of Uranus to Venus could be quite powerful. That's one thing that could be, a real positive in the year ahead. Venus is the goddess of creativity. She's associated with the arts and sensuality and music and painting and dancing and so I mean the potential for Uranus to be stirring awake some kind of creative impulse and the need for creativity to be released at a deeper level in your relationship or for healing to happen in the relationship. If you're a high conflict couple that really loves each other, then I would say, maybe this is a year in which there's some pretty big breakthroughs for you guys and you're able to coexist in an easier way.
That'd be great. I think
Yeah.
that's great for everyone. And you said something about it relating to career possibly as well, because I do have kind of a creative new career endeavor that I have started over the last couple of months.
Sure. Yeah. Venus rules the second, which is the place of our assets, our resources. And so when Uranus hits Venus and Venus is the second house ruler, it can be that there's the stimulation of um, kind of creative slash entrepreneurial impulse, where it's like, let me take something that's creative and try to translate it into an asset or a resource.
Okay.
Yeah. Pluto's squaring Saturn this year. That's a big transit too. Do you have kids?
I do.
Yeah. So,
They're older teenagers, but yes.
okay. Yeah. I could see there being, you know, the classic Pluto Saturn dynamic is about the, maybe conflicts with authority, and when systems or
Oh
structures are
shit.
working or not working. That doesn't have to mean like a disaster. It really doesn't. It could just be like, when kids are, as they're coming up or whatever, they may go through phases of being rebellious or not respecting authority in some way where they need to. And some of that might be even a good thing, but it could be a year where there's some deeper karma that your kids are working through, that you're holding space for them as they're working through it, because Saturn is the ruler of the fifth house, which is the place of children. So yeah, I mean, Pluto Saturn, when it involves kids, I've often seen as like, I'm not going to go to college and you want me to, or I'm going
Well,
to
I'm
defy.
dealing with that right now.
Okay, there you go. There you go.
Actually, my daughter just told me that, but she's the one I'm not as concerned with. My son, he's just turned 17. He has literally failed school the last like 4 school years, and he was past the first year he failed, from eighth to ninth grade, so into high school. And he is also on an IEP program, so he lost a lot of supports in that transition. Also coming out of a like pandemic,
Hmm.
so it's like he's probably gonna completely past his ability to like be in school anymore. He's gonna
Oh,
age out of being a freshman. Like
yeah.
you can't be a 20-year-old freshman, dude.
Right. Right.
So that's the one I would probably see being the issue
It,
there.
I know that the Pluto Saturn dynamic could bring up some tough stuff for sure. I guess the silver lining that I would point to is that, I kind of look, as I'm looking at charts, and I say, okay, well, where's this all heading? As Pluto's finishing up its work with Saturn in the next couple of years, 'cause it's going to be back and forth over that Saturn a couple of years. In 2025, in the summer, Uranus enters your 10th house. That's your career house, starts opposing Jupiter and Uranus in the fourth. To me, that signals a period of time where there's a kind of a revolution and some really exciting new developments around your career. Uranus entering the 10th and opposing Jupiter is a time of taking some risks and doing something really different. So I just kind of like keep it in context, because sometimes there's one area of our chart that's a little heavy, and we forget that there's things developing in other areas of the chart that can, I don't know, just keep us afloat, keep us with a positive attitude. Like, okay, yeah, it might be some things coming up with my kids or whatever, but I've got a kind of this god of electric awakening about to enter my career house in 2 years. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, and that's really actually that is comforting, because I've worked really hard on kind of developing this new path, and it seems to be going well. It's just a slow start, so that's helpful and reassuring. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, Amber, thank you so much for coming on today. Really appreciate it. Hope this gave you a few nice things to think about, and hope you have a great year ahead.
Thanks, and good luck with your Kickstarter.
All right. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
All right. Awesome. Aaron, going to have you come on next. Or it's M. It's M. Sorry. M. How's it going?
Hi.
Thanks for being here. Appreciate it. Do you have your birth data ready for me?
I do, yeah.
Okay. Awesome. What is your date of birth?
May 21st, 1989.
Okay, cool. What time were you born?
10:33 a.m. in Framingham, Mass.
Okay. So I have you as Leo rising. Does that sound right?
Yeah.
Okay, very good. I'm going to share my screen here. All right. Tell me if you can see it.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Speaking of Uranus, going into Gemini, that's going to be a fun one for you when it hits your sun. That's really summer of 25 and 6. Wow, I got a tiny circle. It's weird. Usually the personality is to go big. Let's do it right here. Okay. So there is the sun in Gemini. If you go forward to, June, July of 2025, and then again 2026, Uranus is going to be ingressing into Gemini and conjoining the sun. That's a super, super powerful transit. One of the biggest you'll have in your entire life for your sun. The sun in all charts represents our sense of life purpose. It contains the images that, you know, the images that sort of inform our ambitions and the course of action that we take in life to become something. This is also your ascendant ruler. So I think it's fascinating that for you, this is not just a change of life path or direction that will be Uranian in nature, but it's also a change of character and identity that will also be Uranian in nature. That's fascinating. That's, Uranus is obviously a god of liberation and liberation from established habits and behaviors that we get sick of, and then we need to throw them off and recreate ourselves, and often in a spirit of defiance, rebellion, innovation, originality. Those are all Uranian words. So there's this, like, you're on the precipice of this sort of moment of tremendous self reinvention, and also probably reinvention of career, or 11th house sun is, it can remake your long-term dreams, goals, or visions, introduce you to new people, have you working in a different industry, or with a different company, or with different colleagues or different allies. It's very inventive in Gemini too. Like, I'm sure we're going to see some tremendous technological innovation around that time, like in the collective. So it could be also that things that are happening in the collective, there's a train that you're jumping on, so to speak. Anyway, that transit really stands out to me, because Uranus to Sun dynamics are often those, when people have a Uranus Sun conjunction, square, or opposition, especially the conjunctions and oppositions, there'll be this it's like a crossroads, and you're like, do I just keep going on the path I'm on? And almost always the person goes off onto the other road. It's like, nope, I'm going in a totally different direction from where I've been going. And sometimes that happens within a known industry. Like, okay, I'm in astrology, but I had a Uranus transit, for example, to my sun when I made the shift from written blog content to going onto YouTube. So sometimes it's within the same field, but it still constitutes a really distinct shift in how you're doing things, or how you're connecting to other people, or something like that. How does that resonate with you so far?
I guess it's kind of hard to predict Uranus, so I'm open to seeing what happens, but I don't know what it would be.
Yeah, it's true. What may I ask what you do for a living?
I work in film and television.
Okay, yeah. So, that's really interesting. It would almost, to me, that would probably mean either that there might be some different, like, maybe there's a different, there's some kind of shift happening in the collective culture of film and television, a new trend, something that's really represents an innovation in the industry that could have a really big personal impact on where you're going. Like that's pretty common for Uranus. But another thing could be that your role or title, or the type of responsibility or expertise that you have, is going to shift in a dramatic way. Learning a new craft or skill, or becoming, sometimes, Uranus on the sun too could mean that you're going to take on a lot more responsibility. And there's almost like a change of identity that comes with some, shift in responsibility. For example, when Uranus hit my sun, my second daughter was born. So I was like fully becoming a dad at that point. So the shift in identity can be about solar themes like responsibility, or authority, or leadership. And so, maybe there's a promotion that comes around that time as well, or some kind of greater burden of responsibility that you pick up and start carrying, which is pretty common for Leo risings, by the way. The only other thing that really stands out to me, and it's more imminent, but at the end of the year, I think it's early December, Mars is going to turn retrograde in Leo in your first house. And then it's going to back up through retrograde into the 12th house, which is where your natal Mars in Cancer is. And I can't help but wonder if there's going to be something about, often Mars in Cancer in the 12th will hit on family karma. Themes around mothers, women, children, pregnancy, parenting, the things that are like the emotionally vulnerable places in our lives. Mars and Cancer will often correlate to the places we feel wounded or hurt in the very vulnerable, tender spots. It's interesting that the moon, the ruler of Mars in your chart, is also in the 5th house, which is the place of children. Do you have kids?
No.
Okay. So it's just like my dog is dreaming.
I've got a dog.
What's that?
I've got a dog.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, so you're a dog mom. But yeah, I mean that Mars retrograde, which is really, it lasts all the way into February, and most of it takes place in Cancer. This would be the end of 2024 into the beginning of 2025. And what I would say about that is just be prepared for more emotionally vulnerable spaces to be opening up, and maybe something around like parents, family karma, siblings, that kind of stuff. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I'll just leave it there. Just a couple of transits for you, but I hope that helps.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Well, thanks for being here. Really appreciate it. Hope this gives you some good things to think about, and I hope you have a great new year.
Thank you, you too.
All right. Bye, Em. Okay. I am going to call on one more person, Anna Marie.
Hi.
How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good. I'm so glad that you're here because I wanted to ask you if you would take a second, because you're in the Roots and Spheres program. You've been through a bunch of Nightlight programs too. But would you mind saying something to everyone about what Roots and Spheres is? Because I feel like everyone hears me talk about it, but it might be interesting to hear someone who's there at our moon circles talking about it.
Yeah, for sure. So Roots and Spheres is, I guess, bi-monthly, or like we meet 2 times a month, a virtual Zoom group. And Adam tells us about the transits that are connected with the lunation, all the major transits for 2 weeks, and pulls out a lot of the main themes, questions that we might be exploring. And then Ashley introduces our herbal teacher of the lunation, which is connected to the astrological transits. So the plant teacher, or the herb of the month, is meant to support us as we're going through the emotional and spiritual work of the astrology. So it's a way of connecting physically with some of these spiritual and celestial insights.
That was brilliant. Thank you. that was a great summary. That was so nice. I just put you on the spot. You just nailed it.
Thanks. Yeah, it's awesome. I highly recommend it.
Oh, thanks, Anna Marie. What's your date of birth?
Yes, it is September the 5th, 1993.
And the time?
10:58 a.m.
And the place?
Also in Framingham, Massachusetts.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, that's fun.
Yeah.
All right. Scorpio rising?
That's right.
Okay, cool. I'm going to put your chart up on the screen.
Okay.
Do you have any questions? Because you're a student of astrology as well and have been through some of our programs. Do you have any questions about transits, or do you want me to just tell you what I see?
I guess like anything that immediately stands out to you. Like I can definitely say that what I would imagine for this year is that it will be one of rebuilding relationships of different kinds and completing a dissertation. But, you know, I would be curious to kind of hear if the astrology, like corroborates that, or maybe has a different direction in mind.
Perfect. Yeah. So, I mean, the first transit that stands out to me is Pluto is going to be entering Aquarius and obviously going into the square with your moon. Now that transit's going to take, I mean, really give it until 2026 before it's really sort of settled down, because it's going to go back and forth all of this year, And then it really doesn't hit for the first time until 2000. I think it's going to get real cool. Let's just look. Hold on. Let me look at the, give me just a second.
Sure.
Okay. I'm going to put a bi-wheel up and I'll just show you.
Okay, cool.
So yeah, if we take the Pluto transit forward, see, it goes in late January, and then it starts opposing. Actually, I'll just do this. This will be even easier. All right. I'm just leaving Pluto and the moon in to keep it simple. So here it comes onto the 2nd degree, but it stations and turns retrograde before it hits 222, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that, moving on to the 2nd degree happens by April of 2024. And then it starts retrograding by early May, and then it's off. Okay. And then it's going to come back in late November. And once it comes back, then it moves into the 2nd degree again, like February of 2025, right? And then, so, February, March, it's exact for the first time of 2025. But when it's that close this year, it's effectively a Pluto moon square year. I mean, it's down to minutes, and like, it's not like it's just going to wait until it's exact. So 3-degree rule, typically speaking, right? So yeah, it's active. It's going to come forward retrograde and go back over that 2nd degree by, this is July, August of 2025, right? And then it sits down, stations, turns direct at 1 degree, comes back over the 2nd degree by January 2026. And then it's going to get up to about 5 degrees in retrograde. And then it's going to come back down through its retrograde, almost like less than 1 degree off the square to the moon by October of 2026. So when it finally pulls off, let's say, just a couple degrees, gets a couple degrees distance, it's February 2027. Wow. So, right. So that's like several years worth of Pluto squaring the moon. And that's my point when I say, like, you've got a couple of years of this. I think the thing that I would look to is the fact that this is an exalted moon in the 7th house. And so the primary signification that I would go for would be marriage. The really strong connection with an exalted moon in the 7th house and marriage. So, like, if I had to predict something concrete, which I don't think you have to do, but if I was someone, was like, you must predict something, I'd be like marriage and children, or marriage, or moving in with someone who will eventually be, maybe is a long-term partner. I mean, people have, not everyone wants to get married, right? So a long-term partner, moving in with someone, marriage, those kinds of things probably at the top of my list. Why? Because Pluto is moving into the 4th house, where it changes the base of your life, which for most people is going to include what their living environment looks like. Mm. And it's pinging into the, it's pinging off the moon, exalted moon in the 7th in Taurus, which is very romantic and loves love, and like it, that's a moon that likes to connect to like a stable person that creates a stable, sweet, connected, loving environment. That's the moon. And so when Pluto is hitting that, it can bring up a lot of things that aren't so easy to deal with. Like, it can bring up fears. It can bring up, there might be a partner in there that you feel like, oh, this is the one, but then they're not. But I don't think that's your situation, because, I'm remembering back to what you shared in Roots and Spheres, and you can say it if you want to, but you went through a breakup, and it was a big one. And it was obviously something that probably changed the script of your life karmically. So that happened as Pluto was already within the 3-degree range of your moon. So I think one of the most likely scenarios would be that in the wake of the huge breakup, there's probably a more positive, evolved set of circumstances that are ready to come forth. It doesn't mean that there won't still be a pretty wild adventure moving. Maybe this person's from Belgium or something, who knows? The moon is the ruler of the 9th house of higher education, also foreign countries. Like, could love take you abroad or something, something kind of crazy like that. But also, like, the moon as the 9th house ruler may have some appropriate overlap with the topics of your dissertation. I don't know.
Yeah.
You think? Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, my dissertation is about gaslighting. A lot of which I became familiar with after being in an abusive relationship with a major gaslighter. So yeah,
Oh my
I guess
God.
in that way, there was a connection, or is.
Yeah, there it is. So I would say that there's probably the Pluto in Aquarius hitting the moon, which is the ninth house ruler, is probably also signifying the conclusion of the dissertation process. And the other reason to, anytime planets in the seventh house are being activated, in addition to marriage, we have to remember that the seventh place was called the setting place and the place of resolution and completion and conclusions. When seventh house planets are activated, or when a planet is transiting the seventh house, you'll often see the end of a chapter. I've said it many times, but like, you will see people's dissertations being finished when seventh house transits come up, because it's the place that ancient astrologers talked about as the opposite to the first house, beginnings, the seventh house, endings or completion. So Pluto square the exalted moon looks like a pretty happy ending in a sense. So at least one chapter, if I got nicely finishing your dissertation, maybe nicely falling in love. However, the one thing that I would bring up would be, the Pluto in Aquarius signature, to me, suggests that maybe if you were to meet someone, for example, and fall in love, I bet you there'd be something super Pluto in Aquarius about the dynamic. They're from a different culture. They're from a different, religious background. They're, or maybe family backgrounds are really different. If you grow up and you're someone who grew up just middle class, Pluto hits the moon, the exalted moon in the seventh, and you start dating someone who grew up with a tech billionaire father or something. I don't know. I'm just making this up, but like, you could see how there could be some really deep and powerful differences in family constellations to explore in and through relationships. Different ways that you identify within the collective, within collectives coming up as the means by which to, examine and explore relationships, in other words. How's that? Did we do okay?
Oh my God, that's awesome. And that really does resonate with what's happening. That there is, I'm starting to date again, and that's feeling really good, meeting some cool people. And I am certainly hoping that there will be kind of a transformation in that regard as well, something more stable along with the dissertation. So, yeah, thank you so much for bringing that to my attention.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And thank you for taking a moment to help promote the Roots and Spheres program. And what other programs have you done? I'm trying to remember.
I've also done year one. I'm in horary, and I'm in year two.
Awesome. Yeah. Yeah. Well, you've been a joy to have in class. You always pop on with really great questions, and not surprising considering we've got a PhD candidate sitting in front of us. So
Thank you so much. Everybody donate. Thank you, Adam.
yeah, thanks, Anna Marie. Well, have a great rest of your day and have a great new year too.
All right, you too.
Okay, bye. Okay, awesome. I have one more person here I'm going to try to get on. Cherry. Hi, Cherry. Oh, you're muted.
Hi.
How's it
How
going?
about now? Going well,
Yes.
thanks.
Yes, I can hear you now. Awesome. I'm sorry I've got my feet up. It's been a long day. I'm going to put your chart up on the screen. Can you tell me your date of birth?
November 28th, 1989,
And the time.
7:49 p.m.
And the place.
Paradise, California.
Wow, I was expecting Framingham, Massachusetts again. Okay, Paradise, California. Oh, which is it Marin?
No, Butte County.
Ah, got it. Okay, cool. So I have you as Cancer rising. Does that sound right?
Yep.
That makes sense to me. My wife's a Cancer rising, and two of my really good friends are. And like, if I had to have guessed your rising sign, I would have guessed Cancer. Just a feeling.
You're not the first person. You're not the first person.
Is that true? Okay.
Yeah, I'm outed by my face all the time.
That's awesome. By the way, someone was saying, I don't see the Kickstarter link in the description. How do I learn more? Yeah, so the Kickstarter link is right here. I'm putting it into the live stream, and you can go over to the website as well, nightlightastrology.com, and it will take you over to the Kickstarter. And don't forget that as I'm doing this last reading, all of our classes are on sale through the Kickstarter. You won't have this sale again until next year at the time of the Kickstarter. So if you want to come study with us, go through any of our certification programs, Roots and Spheres program, our Moon Circle Anna Marie was just talking about. They're all on sale through the Kickstarter through New Year's Eve. So you only have a couple more days left. We still need 573 backers at the time of the start of this recording. I think we're less than that now because we've gotten some donations that have come in while we've been sitting here, which is cool. But anyway, that's how you find out more about the Kickstarter. Thanks for asking. All right, Cherry, I'm going to put your chart up on the screen, and let's get into it. Okay.
I highly recommend the year 1 class, by the way.
Oh, are you in year 1?
I took year 1. I guess I was Nightlight 21, I think was the name of the course, like 2 years ago.
That the course has shifted so much since. I mean, it's still the core elements are still very much the same, but yeah, I was just thinking, it was like that Nightlight 21 group was sort of infamous. We were just talking, me and some of the staff were talking about some of the Nightlight groups and which ones had like super infamous characters. It's like the real world. But then there's people that like, I never saw you on mic or camera, I don't think.
I only was able to attend the first class live, and then I ended up taking a little over a year to finish the program, and went all the way through the certification. Like I did it all, and then I didn't send it in because I had this moment of like, I don't need other people's validation. Like I took the class, I feel good about it.
Good.
So I never sent it in.
Well, if you still want to send it in, but you're right. I mean, we tell people all the time, like, the certification is for, really it's for show. It's like you've taken a difficult test and you can use that to tell people I've been through a certification exam, and building your resume or whatever. For some people that's really important, but for other people it's like, if that's not your purpose or you don't care so much about that and exams stress you out, then don't take it. I've gone through lots of programs in astrology, some of which I've certified through, some of which I haven't. And at the end of the day, it's just like, are you learning and enjoying it?
Definitely enjoyed it.
Oh, that's good. Thank you. Well, let's see here. So, gosh, well, I mean, how was the Pluto transit through your 7th, by the way? And that hit like a lot of planets.
You read my story on Grabbed about
Did
it,
I really?
actually. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay. I don't always remember the names of the people. So tell me.
That's okay. So I attended a Christmas party that my husband's company paid for, and we ended up getting back to our hotel room very, very wildly intoxicated, and still quite drunk. Like an hour or two later, my heart is pounding so hard.
Oh.
This story is hilarious, but so I'm still very drunk. It's like an hour or two after we stumbled into the hotel room, strip our clothes off, and fall into bed. Like nothing exciting happened. We were very, very wasted. And so I have to go to the bathroom, and instead of opening the bathroom door in the hotel room, I open the hallway door, and I wake up in the hallway as the hotel room door is closing behind me. I'm completely naked, and it's like 3 o'clock in the morning, and I'm still quite drunk. And my husband, who is like he's a heavy sleeper normally, like when he's not intoxicated, there's no waking him up at all. And I ended up having to like live in this nightmare situation for some amount of time. I don't know, it felt like a long time. And finally, I had worked up the nerve to get in the elevator and go down to the front desk and request a key to my room. And right as I like had that amount of courage built up, a group of people came walking down the hallway, and the company had rented out the entire floor of the hotel. And so I knew that it was going to be like people from the party. And so I like push myself up against the door, like as close to the door as I can get. And like, I'm like, maybe if I pretend I'm invisible, nobody will see me. And it almost worked, but then one of the people in the group saw me and turned around. And my husband works for a plumbing company, and so it's all like very large, stereotypical men that are at this party. They're lovely people, but they're like big plumbers. And so this big plumber man that I don't remember, I'm still very drunk, remember, he is like, "What is happening?" I barely get it out of my mouth, but I'm like, I got locked out and Dan won't wake up. And so he starts like pounding on our hotel room door with like both fists. It's just like big giant man is pounding on our hotel room door, and he's like, "Wake up, you motherfucker!" Sorry, like cursing, but he's like, "Wake up, wake up!" And my husband finally comes to the door, opens the door. I look at his face. I can tell he's sleepwalking. He's not awake. And so I just like fall into the door. I'm like, "Thank you." Close the hotel door room behind me. Take both of us, me and my husband who's sleepwalking. I take us both back to bed. I just lay down and whoo.
Oh my
So
God.
that happened. That happened on the day that Pluto, or that it was exact. Was what I'm trying to say.
Pluto was on Venus.
It was less than 3 degrees. I went back and looked.
That is the best story I've ever heard in my life.
So yeah, that's my Venus Pluto grabbed in the 7th house story.
Easy. That is nuts. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so I'm glad I asked that question, because I remember that grab story. As soon as you started telling it, I totally remembered it. And I just think that hearing you tell it was way better than my rendition of reading your story. So thank you. I think everyone probably just we all needed that.
I hope that you guys are just dying laughing, because like I was able to recognize the humor in it pretty quickly, but then you'd like to keep going with that archetype. That event it sparked conversations in our marriage, that were like not necessarily related to the event, but that was a catalyst. And my husband and I have been together for like 17 years. So
wow. That's
yeah.
great. Oh, that's fantastic. That is a great story. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Thank you. Wow, thank you.
Yeah, for sure. The thing that comes to my mind in terms of your chart is the April. Oh, look at the big, huge donut showed up. I don't know what.
Yes.
Here we go. I know. So, let's see. 10th house eclipse. Where was I going? April 8th. There's a solar eclipse while Mercury is retrograde in your 10th house. That's a pretty impactful eclipse. It's going to fall in line with squares to your 1st and 7th. Makes me wonder about career shifts happening maybe for you or your spouse in the year ahead. Pretty significant change of direction there in the professional house with that eclipse and a Mercury retrograde at the same time. Do you sense any changes coming in your career this year?
Oh yeah. I was hoping that I would get on today, because I've just been dying for confirmation for what I've been seeing for myself. Yeah, I have a big show in April, and we will have I am the production manager for a dance company, and we will have been working for a little over 12 months to put this show up, and it will be debuting on April 20th. And so that's the build up time to this show, and I just have a feeling that what we're bringing forward is really just the beginning of something much bigger.
Yeah, I mean, let's be real. April 20th, Jupiter and Uranus will conjoin in your 11th house, a place of communities, groups, and it'll be trining your natal Venus. Right? So
I'm in a Venus perfection year.
Oh yeah, there you go. I think this is really big for you. That
Wow.
eclipse in your 10th, followed by Jupiter Uranus conjoining in the 11th, trine to your natal Uranus. That all strikes me as really nice. The Jupiter Uranus will be sextile your ascendant, trine the descendant, trine Venus, right after this very powerful, solar eclipse with the exalted sun in Aries in the 10th. So yeah, I feel like the spring is looking like it not only just the production and the like momentum of launching something you've been working on, but the doors that it opens as a result. The next things that come in are look significant.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Yeah, Cherry, you were our last one for today. I hope that this little reading was useful, and I will tell you that your story was useful to me, because that was the highlight of my day easily.
Oh, good.
Hearing that story like in person just totally made my day.
Amazing, fantastic. I'm a huge fan of your content, and it's great to like have this. I mean, you're in my headphones every morning, and so
Aw.
it's neat to like have this little interaction and know that you appreciate my story too. So thank you.
Yeah, and now I can think of Cherry, and I can think of her trying to be invisible in the hallway. And some guy be like, wake the fuck up.
What the fuck's happening? Yeah, it was so, man. Pluto Venus in the seventh.
Yeah, I love it. Oh my God, that was the best. Cherry, have a great rest of your day and have a really happy new year.
Thanks, you too.
Okay, bye. Awesome. That I don't know if that didn't get you out of your chair laughing. Yeah, that was the best. That was a great way to close it for the day. Hey guys, thank you so much for supporting the Kickstarter. As of the time that I'm finishing this live stream, we are at 1,212 backers. Let me do a little quick matharoo. All right, let's see, 1,777 minus 1,213. We need 564 backers by New Year's Eve. So if you haven't yet, please consider donating. If you're listening to this after, you can find the link in the description of the video or pinned to the top of the comments section. It's there in the live stream chat. You can go over to nightlightastrology.com and click on the link. You'll rewind to the beginning of the episode. I tell you about, if you missed it, I tell you about all of the programs at Nightlight that we offer. So if you're thinking of taking one of the programs, you're on the fence, you can also email us. You know, the email address is info@nightlightastrology.com. If you have any questions whatsoever about the programs and considering picking one up through the sale. So on that note, I hope you guys have a really nice evening, and probably be doing some live streams for the last couple of days here. So I'll probably be on tomorrow at some point for more live readings and Q&A, and we'll see you then. Bye, everyone.